Hi, this is Zach here with the weekend edition of the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe. It is Sunday, the 13th of July. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which came close to the top of that rising trend channel 9030. We were looking for that by the end of this month, and I suppose there's still time, even though we've had another Trump tariff intervention. But on the basis that Trump always chickens out, we'll hope that we find support near the floor of the channel there, 8870, and that can progress to 9030 by the end of this month. Best case scenario is that we head up to the top of that channel, the red one there, the accelerated channel, one could say, from the beginning of May up to 9220 by the end of next month. On the downside, worst case is that we've got to test the 50-day line, 8755. Moving along to the DAX, and here similar situation to the FTSE. We're in this range between the top of that rising trend channel from April last year up to 25,000, which is our target, ideally by the end of this month, and the 50-day line there, 23,800. Not expecting anything lower to be sustained below that 50-day line. RSI at 57, so we're in a good place for potentially a fresh move to the upside. Moving along to the Dow, and here situation is that we're in a hopefully a mid-move consolidation. We're just days away from a golden cross between the 50 and 200-day line. So about 44,000, the old March resistance, still looking for up to 47,400 by the end of next month. We do break down, hoping that a combination of the initial June resistance, 43,100, or the 50 and 200-day lines, 42,700, would take up the slack for this market. Market at the moment, by quite some distance, is Bitcoin, and here we've had the big breakout, the logjam broken after 2 months, which was obviously rather irritating. That line broken at $110,000, and not surprising it broke, given all the companies adopting and then paying for Bitcoin as part of their strategy. 50-day and 200-day lines both rising as well, so above 112. Looking for 126,000 now, the top of that channel. It's risen up to that level by the end of this month. Moving on to gold, which has been dithering a bit in recent days. It's still arguably in that rising trend channel from April. It's widened a bit, which has sort of made things a bit more complicated, but still looking for 3,800 at the top of that channel. Maybe as soon as the end of next month, if we can get a quick break of 3430, the April resistance line by the end of this month. RSI at 49, so that's below the neutral 50 level, still leaves the door open for a third test of the 3230 area, which has been post-May support. Moving on to the stocks, and stock rising on recent news, but no fresh news, is African Pioneer. Here you can see that we've broken out of that falling trend channel. We're just breaking out of that at a penny. End of day close above a penny, and we're looking for up to 1.75 pence by the end of next month. Obviously, the company helped by the news regarding the Ongombo copper gold project mining license being issued. Moving along to a stock which I suppose was right at the vanguard of the whole Bitcoin Bitcoin situation. The obviously saw better days, Argo Blockchain, at the end of 2020 and going into 2021 when we had our last rally there. Current situation is, I suppose, the company's struggling to survive, but if it does survive, we've got the top of the falling trend channel there at 3.1 pence, and the best case scenario at the moment is up to 4.75 pence by the end of next month at the 200-day moving average. You can see that that's been the block on progress over the recent past. If we do break back below the floor of the channel there, 1.4 pence, then that may not be a good sign, but the share's recovering after the overshoot to the downside and below a penny that we had at the turn of the month. Stock in a rather better place is Coinsilium, and here the shares reviving themselves after the recent news that we had from the company, chairman's statement, and I think the company is added to its headroom, so you can buy more Bitcoin whenever it's ready. Current situation is that we're looking for the top of that rising trend channel at 42 pence, let's call it, by the end of this month, while we remain above recent broken resistance at 25 pence. So nice little setup there. RSI is now crept back above the neutral 50 to stand at 52. At this stage, only back below the floor of the channel there. 19 pence would really suggest that we need a bit more time to take up the slack of recent fundraisers. Onto a stock which has been in one of the best rising trend channels or best rises of the recent past. Empire Metals, they've seen the shares hit various targets, 11 pence, then 16, then up to 23. Above 23, we're looking for a minimum now of 33, which is the upper parallel of that resistance line projection from April last year. What's even more interesting is that this consolidation between 20 and 5 pence and 30 pence looks like a mid-move consolidation. And so one would probably be looking for rather more than just 33 pence. The upside potentially up to the line I'm just drawing at the moment, even as high as 38 pence. That would make sense by the end of next month. But obviously, let's see if we can get to 33 pence first. Upside value while we're above the 25 pence zone. On to another stock which has covered itself in glory, which is Guardian Metal Resources. Here you can see that we blasted through the previous target there, which seemed rather optimistic, 52 pence, 53 pence, so let's call it 53. And so far it's had a flying start to July, gapping up with the last move, and also it's actually a bear trap island reversal, so gapping down, then gapping up. That, when it's near the highs, tends to be a very, very strong signal, and indeed, therefore, we're looking for 80 pence by the end of next month. But really lucky, I suppose it might be by the end of this month. And 80 pence derived from that late 2023 resistance line projection heading up to that area. Upside valid while we're above the old June resistance, just around the 61 pence level. On to Invinity, where I didn't really feel like charting it, which tends to be a sign that one should be charting it. Here you can see that we managed to break through the initial triangle target, which looked rather optimistic at 22 pence. Above 22 pence, looking for the upper parallel of that broadening triangle base as high as 32 pence by the end of this month. And this stock starting to look very strong indeed, in the sense we've got that step fashion, so rising sideways, sort of vertical then sideways action. Very, very strong indeed. So I think that could exceed on the upside. Upside about it while we're above that old 23 pence target. On to Rockfire, which we may be getting a bit carried away, but it looks as though it's in good nick at the moment. The reason for saying that is that we have an unfilled gap to the upside. We've gapped up twice in the recent past. We've got a rising 50-day line off the low, RSI 50 rebound. So it looks as though we'll not only be able to head back towards the old February resistance there, 0.19, but maybe even go a bit better than that, 0.22 by the end of next month. So it really does look as though the recent news, which was the plateau drilling for the shares, really helping along, as did the placing that we had at the beginning of this month. Moving on to a situation which is equally interesting at the moment, Sunrise Resources, where there have been plenty of false dawns, pun intended, over the recent past. But the current situation looks interesting in the sense that the shares were just flat and they all of a sudden come to life. Friday, the shares opened at the low, closed at the high, which doesn't happen by accident. Top of the rising trend channel base at 0.024. That's what we're looking for by the end of this month, and maybe even a bit more if we can head up to the 200-day line at 0.026. On to another stock which has risen after a placing, and here you can see that Solvonis was up 13% on Friday. We've managed to hit our 0.29 target there in time for the end of this month, and while we're above 0.29, looking for the next level up, which is 0.46, which was resistance on the way down back at this time last year, and looking for that perhaps as soon as the end of this month, given the premium placing and the way the shares have risen after that. Onto stock where one just gets the feeling that something's going on as well. Here we've got that step fashion, so rising vertically, then sideways, then up again. Looking for a minimum here at 145, perhaps as soon as the end of this month, and especially while we remain above the old March resistance at 113 pence. Ideally, we stay on the right side of the recent support at 114. On to the last two, another one which may come to life, which is Thor Energy. The reason for including this is that we've had a bear trap island reversal, so gapping down but there in April and gapping up This month, what's also interesting is we've got the 50-day line rising at the low. We've had an RSI rebound above neutral 50, and we've got this V-shaped bull flag, as I call it, or U-shaped in this case. And what's interesting there is it's a floating one, i.e. we gapped up and we haven't actually we found support at the top of the gap. So looking very strong indeed. Looking for 0.8 pence by the end of next month, maybe even sooner than that, in what is basically our favorite setup there. Finishing off with a stock which made a bit of a noise a couple of months ago, but dithered after that. What's interesting here is with Videndum, they've got this basically handle formation on the right-hand side, so it's like a cup and handle, but the move here looks as though it's heading towards the top of that rising trend channel at 114. Very strong there with all those blue candles and rising 50-day line. RSI has been above neutral 50 since the end of last month, so hopefully this is going to snap up quite nicely over the next week or two. So 114 or 115 by the end of this month, especially or if we can stay above recent resistance around the 89 pence level. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.